Nation in Conversation, proudly brought to you by AFGRI, Fort Knox, Hinterland, Monsanto, Nedbank, NWK and Senekal.
Welcome to Nation in Conversation. I'm Theo Foster. Our guest today is Charl Senekal. Charl, let's start at the beginning. You grew up in a modest household, not in the sugar industry. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Theo, my father was a teacher. My mother was a manager of a large shop. And I was born in Willowmore in the Eastern Cape. My father moved to Mossel Bay, where I did my first 3 years of schooling. Then we moved to the Transkei, where my father worked at, taught at a special school. I think it belonged to the Dutch Reformed Church in Maclear. And he did that for 2 years and then moved on to Pongola, where I was introduced to the sugar industry and where we met the then wealthy farmers of our industry. And I learned a lot from those guys. I can assure you today they motivated me to work hard and to plan well, to also be like them one day.
As a young boy, growing up and seeing the sugar farmers and seeing the successful sugar farmers, did you aspire to become a sugar farmer?
For sure. I was at school with their children. I knew every person in Pongola personally. I always say I was this big when I knew the difference between wealth and not so wealthy people, and that really was a serious motivation to me to also have a sugar farm one day, and I really concentrated all my efforts on getting myself into that position.
How did you get your first sugar farm?
I was working as a sugar technologist for the Pongola Sugar Milling Company, today C.G. Smith. I worked a lot of overtime and decided to save my overtime money and just live on my normal salary. And my wife was at university. It cost me an arm and a leg to get to her every second or third weekend. So one day I was only 22 years old and she was 21. When I said to her, Elise, we are going to marry one day, and why don't we get married? And she never hesitated. She dropped her studies, she married me, and from that day she motivated me in working even harder and being more focused. And the results came shortly thereafter. We saved my full salary. She worked and earned a very modest salary, but we lived on that. And after 14 years, I could buy my first 45 hectares of sugarcane. And since then, I never looked back.
Just that first farm you purchased, if you think back, this young boy with a dream of owning a sugar farm, buying the first sugar farm, and according to some analysis today, the biggest independent sugar farmer in the Southern Hemisphere. Did you ever think you'll be so successful?
No, I didn't, Theo. I really didn't. So many good things happened to me in my life that it'll take me 5 hours to explain to the viewers how many good things happened to me, but I was still very ambitious. I worked very hard, and after about 6 months on the farm, I said to my wife, listen, it's too quiet for me, I have to get more busy. I then started a business called Senekal, which I still have today, distributing agricultural chemicals to the farmers, and I did all the exams to qualify as a representative to make recommendations, and my business just boomed. I was then noticed by the Tongaat Group. They were in the textile business, big time those days, and Dr. Chris Saunders, retired chairman of the group, contacted me and said, listen, you're so strong in cotton, because I really controlled the cotton industry from as high as Limpopo down to the south coast of Natal. And he said to me, I want you to buy cotton on behalf of my group, because we're not getting enough cotton into our textile factories. We have to import. And he said to me, Charles, I'm going to give you 9 million rand to start. And I said, Doc, that will last me 2 days. I mean, I know each and every cotton farmer in our industry. And he came up with a helicopter and we flew over the Makatini Flats right next to my farm, today's farm. And he saw the amount of cotton and he gave me 10 million rand. And I said, no, come with me and let me go and show you how we're going to buy cotton. And we spent that 10 million rand in a matter of a day and a half. And then we got to a very large farmer who had about 3 million rand worth of cotton those days. And he said, no, we're going to buy this crop. And I said, listen, we've overspent. We write on budget now. If I write out the check now, we're in trouble. He said, no, post-dated. Post-dated by just 1 day, I'll bring you the money. And I said, well, you better do it, because if you don't do it, I'll probably be hanged those days by the bank. And yes, we wrote out the check and the deal went through. And our cotton business just started booming. We did, if I remember correctly, a turnover of about 22 million rand in our first year. And in our fourth year, we did like 140 million rand turnover. So the business just boomed. Our attitude towards the black people, they were the major suppliers to us. My wife speaks Zulu very well. She writes it, she reads it. She worked at the University of Zululand for many years. My Zulu is not as good, but I can talk it. And the people loved us, and they supplied us with cotton in abundance, and so much that we had to actually stop them at certain times too.
The change from cotton to sugar, or the refocus on sugar, how did that come about?
No, I still had my sugar farm, and the cotton it was a spin-off of my chemical industry, my chemical business. And it went so well with us at one stage that I could buy a farm with commission out of cotton every third month and pay cash for it.
And that assisted in broadening, in buying additional farms.
That gave the momentum.
Another big step came about when you gained access to water from the Pongala Dam. But what people don't realize is the number of people in the community that actually assists today.
Yes, Theo. It was in December of 1999, and I was on holiday in Belito, watching TV, and then Deputy President, today President of South Africa, Mr. Zuma, made a speech and said, listen, the year 2000 will be the year of basic services to the people. And he said water and electricity will have to come. And we loved that. So I was brave enough to phone his office on about the 3rd of January, and no reply. But on the 4th of January, Dr. Bongani Khumalo, his secretary, then answered and said, listen, what can we do for you? And I told him my story, that I want to take water from the Jozini Dam to the people of Makuzi. And he said, well, let me put it to the president, the deputy president. And the deputy phoned me an hour or two later and said, listen, it's unbelievable. We're busy planning a pipeline to service those people with water. You tell me you're going to do it. And I said, yes, I want to do it. I just sold a big farm. I had quite a bit of cash. And I was prepared to invest every cent of that cash into the pipeline. So he said to me, come down to Cape Town. I'll buy you and your wife a ticket. Fly down, come down tomorrow. And we talk about it. And we were busy packing our stuff when the president phoned back, deputy, and said, listen, I'm so curious, I'm coming up. And it resulted in a very good relationship between myself and our president at the moment, which is still very strong. You can recall he mentioned my name 3 times in his budget speech last year. And also the children of the Senekals and the Zumas are friends today. And I'm very proud about it. And he came to me, I explained my scheme to him, and he said, it's lovely. But my promise to the people was that they'll have water by December of this coming year. And that leaves you with 10 to 11 months. And I said, Deputy, let's go for it. He said, can you do it? I said, I think I can, but I was nervous. And we bought pipes. We started laying pipes.
Where did you get the skills?
Oh, I went to the Rand Water Board where they were laying big pipes. And I sat there with my video camera and an umbrella, and I watched the people work. And at the end of the day, I said to my wife, that guy and that guy are the team leaders here. A black guy and a white guy. So I called them in and said, listen, what are you earning? The one guy was like 6,000 Rand a month, and the other one like 4.5. And I said, listen, okay, you will be pushed to 6 net, and you'll be pushed to 8 net. Come and do your tricks on my farm. And within 24 hours, they resigned, and I could send a truck up and fetch their furniture. And they did a magnificent job for me. Really, I'll never forget how hard they worked and how well they worked. And I looked well after them. And one day, I arrived there, and actually the manager phoned me and said, listen, there are some Parks Board people that are preventing us from trenching any further. And I said, ooh. The president said, Deputy, I could phone him. And I phoned. And he immediately answered, and he was very happy to talk to me. And he said, listen, what are those guys saying? I said, no, they say we're in Parks Board land now, and we haven't got permission to go through there. He said, listen, I give you permission to go through there, because my pipeline would have gone through there as well. It's exactly the same route as we envisaged for our pipeline, so you just dig, okay? I said, no. And you'll cover me. He said, listen, I'll cover you like nothing, because I believe you're progressing so well. He was very well informed. And it was about 9.5 months that I phoned him and said, listen, Deputy, we're ready to press the button. He said, let your wife press the button and send me a picture. We're very proud of you. And it was the best thing, excuse me, that ever happened to me. It really opened up northern KwaZulu-Natal to the people. Today we give water to 350,000 people, and the scheme is still growing. We are giving water to 150,000 head of cattle. And in a time where other people's cattle is dying, and where I can't supply water to, I have 4 or 5 tankers running there.
24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, taking water to the people. They're my people. They made me successful. I owe it to them. I will never change my mind on that. And the scheme is just going from strength to strength to strength. In fact, Matuba is about 80 k's from us. People are now asking, can't we take water, drinking water, right down to them through what we call the railway valley. There's a railway line running there. And I'm very proud. I'm very proud to say it also helped me a lot. My sugar plantations grew from 400 hectares in the year 2000 to 4,500 hectares. We will exceed 5,000 by the end of this year. So for my business, it meant miracles, but for the people of our area, it also means miracle.
I want to change track slightly. You talk about now President Zuma, but you also had the privilege of having Mr. Muammar Gaddafi on your farm. How did that come about?
I don't know in which year it was, but it was around about 2004 or 5 that my wife and myself were invited to the African Union Congress in Durban, just the last day. And we were having breakfast, and I was really in absolute unbelievable conversation with some of the African ministers. And then the president came in and he said, listen, there's a VIP that's driving back home, and he wants to stay over on an open piece of land somewhere near your farm. And I said, no, I have that right next to the main road. But I figured out that it could be President Gaddafi. So, and when we left, state security came to me and said, no, listen, that person is not coming anymore. So don't worry, don't worry about anything, just continue. And we drove back, and we were still in bed 6 o'clock Sunday morning when my cell phone rang, and my son Dreyer, that you've met, the guy that speaks very well, but that day he was stuttering, saying, Dad, I don't know what's going on. Dad, there are soldiers. Dad, there are soldiers all over, you know. I said, but calm down. Said, Dad, but they're walking around with mine detectors. Are there mines on the farm? And it took me half a minute to say, no, I wonder if Colonel Gaddafi didn't pitch up, and hell, half an hour later his fleet arrived. 3 helicopters, 90 land cruisers, 63 million South African rand in cash with him. And they just pitched a tent on that open piece of land. And he then called us to come and say good morning, my wife and myself. And we were accompanied by 6 or 7 of his ministers. And we had to wait outside his tent, a fair distance away from like 50 meters, but it was a plowed field with clods this big. And we had to stand there, and the guy said, listen, the Minister of Foreign Affairs said, okay, if he comes out, we got to run towards him. And he didn't really say, but they wanted us to be happy when we arrived. But
running towards him, laughing and cheering.
Yeah, and then he came out and we started running, and I ran for about 5 meters, and I hit a clod this big. I was nearly down on the ground. And by the time we got to Colonel Gaddafi, I was really smiling, you know, for us running.
Running on your own farm.
Running on our own farm. And if I could interpret his attitude, he wasn't very happy then. He didn't like it, you know, that we're so friendly. But he started talking to me. He was very positive. He liked my farm. He started talking about wages we pay, you know, these things, the rubbish they talk about, farmers stealing from their workers and stuff like that. And I assured him I'm not doing that. He wanted to see my pipeline that I laid. And he said, listen, I'm also going to lay a pipeline. And I said, yes, Colonel. He said, but mine will be 6 to 7 meters in diameter. And then I thought, well, he's only a president, you know, he's not an engineer with a 6-meter pipeline. I've never seen one in my life. And he said, and one day when it's complete, I want you to come and have a look. And that day arrived about 3-4 years later, and he invited myself and Dr. Theo de Jaar from Agri SA to visit him. And I can tell you now, he's not as bad a guy as they said he is. The people loved him. He made mistakes, like we all do, but he treated us like kings. We were flying second class, and it happened to be his aeroplane from OR Tambo to Tripoli. And when we arrived there, his Secretary General said, but why are you flying second class? We said, well, that's how Agri SA flies. He said, no, listen, not in my planes. You move forward now. Eh? So we had a brilliant 4 or 5 days in his country, and from there he flew us to Egypt to attend the African Summit for Chinese investment, which was unbelievable, and all expenses paid by him.
Have you ever wondered what gift he would have given your son at his wedding?
Yeah, I must tell the viewers that my son and myself, we went down to East London for business, and he wasn't married then. He was about to get married, and then about 9 o'clock at night we got a phone call from the president of Gaddafi's senior diplomat in South Africa, And he said, listen, we got information that your son is getting married on your farm in a white tent. And my golden leader wants to know why he was not invited. And I said, but sir, I can't invite him. He'll regard it as an insult. And he said, no, he's now regarding it as an insult. You have to do something. Can I tell him that he's invited? I said, no, he's welcome to do so, but he won't pitch. He said, no, but if you invited him previously, he would have given your son a present. I said, yeah, that would have been very nice. He said, he just gave a present of $5 million to a famous couple that got married in America. And I said, well, can't we postpone this wedding? can't we have it later? And after he died, the BBC visited me for 2 days, wanting to know from me what happened to the money he brought into South Africa. And I knew nothing about it. But they were talking about $10 billion in cash. And nobody could give them the answer. There was a huge TV program on his life, which was certain things were unveiled that I didn't know about, and certainly stuff I didn't like. But to me, I tell you, he was a gentleman. Tough guy, straight guy, but if you performed, I have to tell you that when we were there, he offered us a 40,000 hectare olive farm, trees of 80 years old. I had it valued by Olive South Africa. The price then was 12 billion rand. He wanted South Africans to help him build up his country. He was a man totally committed to Africa. He wanted Africans to help him to progress.
Charl, let's turn the clock to today. Today's environment in terms of farmers, where they are, your involvement with empowering people, with looking after people, with creating almost a community asset in terms of your farm for the people around it, the projects you're busy with. Give us some information on that.
See, well, I'm very involved in community upliftment. I've been involved with that ever since I started my cotton business. The people impressed me, the basic people impressed me so much, living around the farm, and they're so thankful for you if you do something small for them. Yes, we've done a lot of good work, but there's still a lot of work to be done. I identified 4 young men in our area, one of them a graduated person, jobless, and I just decided to engage with them and see where I can help. And they all said to me, Mr. Senekal, we want to farm one day, we want to farm, we want to be like you. And I don't know if that's the right attitude, but anyway, I said to them, get some land. And they came back after 2 weeks and said, listen, we have 15 hectares. I said, no, 15 hectares can't sustain 4 families. Come back to me with 50 hectares. A month later, they said, now we have 50 hectares. And just before I came here, they phoned me and said, now they have 100 hectares. And I said, now you can build a serious business. And Senekal Farming will definitely get involved in helping these guys to get off the ground. I've already spoken to my sugarcane miller. They will make, we call it a quota, but they'll make space available in their sugar mill to take cane from 100 hectares, which is about 12,000 tons. Sugar industry, Sugar Association actually, are keen to get involved in sponsoring these guys. And I think that would be a very good example to other farmers, to give them direction in which way to go. And those guys, I can assure you, will be in 1 year's time, will be very, very happy, successful farmers. And I've done it to, I won't say hundreds, but many other farmers. I uplifted them, and I made it possible for them to get into farming, and I enjoy it as much as they do.
Your plans in terms of power self-sustainability?
It was knocked very hard about 6 weeks ago when we were phoned on a Saturday evening at 7 o'clock saying that we've just lodged registered a claim against your farm, Muammar, which is the farm on which the power station would have been erected 4 days later, or the foundations would have been dug. And I was totally floored. I didn't know how they could do it to me, because my son said to the commissioner, but that's the farm where the power station must come, and he started laughing. He said, well, build it on that farm, we can give you a 10-year lease. Now, the lifespan of a power station is between 60 and 80 years. And to redo a EIA would take you at least 3 years. So I said, I have no other option but to call it off.
What was the investment going to be at that point?
1.1 billion rand. And we would have given the community claiming the land 2.5 million rand a year for free. And the other 3 communities around my farm would have got the same. So I was deeply disappointed, and so was my son, and so was our fellow investors, Building Energy. But 2 days before I came here, into my office walked one of the claimants and said, listen, Mr. Senekal, I'm here to apologize for what we've done to you. You must be deeply disappointed. What we've done is wrong. We are going to speak to the commissioner to cancel the claim against your farm, or the claims against your farm. And we want you to please proceed with the power station, because it's not only in the interest of us, it is in the interest of our district, in the interest of our province, in the interest of our country. And they had a meeting with my son yesterday, Andre. It was a very positive meeting. So I think the fire, although it's very small at this stage, is beginning to...
It might be back on track again.
I think it's going to get back on track. We want it to be back on track. And I'll be very grateful if we can get it back on track. On the community side, Theo, I just want to say something, that we decided to build a transshipping, sugarcane transshipping plant on our farm to offload sugarcane from a truck onto a railway wagon and then transport it to the mill, which would save us 70 to 80 rand per ton of cane that we handle. And we'll soon be handling 500,000 tons of cane, which means it's 40 million rand a year saving for us. And then my son proposed, but why don't we make it bigger and bring in the whole community from Makatini, the black farmers? And it's absolutely miracle. Those guys took hands with us. They are so happy. We're going to increase the capacity of the plant. We're going to save the community of Makatini about 25 million rand per year, money that will now go to their pockets instead of buying diesel. The motto of our cane handling plant is, let's take 1 million tons of cane off the road onto rail, where it should be. And from the industry side and the millers, they're hugely impressed with our idea, and I think it's quite an expensive exercise, but I think we're going to get a large sum of money from overseas donors because of this idea, and it's made by Senekal on our farm, okay? It's our idea, and it will change the lives of many, many, many small farmers that can now grow to medium-sized or even large-scale black farmers.
Pro-Agri, what is it about? What do you want to achieve?
So Pro-Agri is growing stronger by the day. It's the people that receive the achievement of National Farmer of South Africa. I regard them as experts in their field. We're about 38. We meet twice a year. And we don't talk just farming. We talk even a bit of politics, but mostly economics. We share views with one another. And we give hints to one another on where to buy, what not to buy, what to do. And we got great recognition from our government, inviting us to a series of meetings on land reform. And they really made us feel that we are contributing seriously. And currently we are coming up with ideas. You'll see some of the ideas that were given to government over the last 6 months came from us. The one on not making the agricultural cake smaller by taking my farm, for instance. Rather give me opportunity to buy another farm for the claimants. We give them opportunity. We teach them for 10 years to farm. After 10 years, we sit down and say, listen, we work on a 50-50 basis. Are we going to continue like this, or are you buying the whole farm? And it will change from province or district to district, but basically what we want to do, we want to grow the agricultural cake in South Africa and not make it smaller. And that's one of the basic things that Pro-Agri is working very, very, very hard and positively on.
How do you feel about the future of farming in South Africa?
I'm a born optimist. The mistakes we make and newspapers write about are small mistakes. We must feed the nation. We must produce affordable, quality food for this nation. I'm a very strong believer that the large farmers of South Africa must spread their wings into Africa. Africa is waiting for us. They're knocking on our door every day saying, guys, come and invest. Come and teach us. Come and tell us how you're doing it. I spent most of last week, the whole of last week in Zambia. I was received so positively. Even when I got to the border gate, the lady in charge had a picture of me. The minister gave it to her. Said, when this guy arrives, you just chase him through. And that happened. And I met with the minister on quite a few occasions. I was in his office. I think it's going to become the 10th province of South Africa one day. The people are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. They're sitting with 40% of Africa's water and about 30% of Africa's unused agricultural land. There's water like you've never seen in your life before, fertile soils, but it should be a gateway. Zambia should become a gateway into Africa, because it's not only Zambia looking for good South African farmers, it's also other countries adjacent to Zambia. You know better than I do that the copper business, I mean, it's gone down the tube. So 1, 2, 3, the Zambian government decided they had a copper-based economy. Why don't we make it an agricultural-based economy? And the relationship between Senekal farming and the Zambian government is, we talk to one another every day. We're not fish farmers, but they've already inquired, can't you help us with 10 or 12 fish farms? We want to feed the people. And I'm a great, great supporter of all SADC countries dropping border control, because it's costing a lot of money. A lot of unnecessary money is spent, and certainly discouraging people to invest in countries like Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and even higher up Congo. So I'm optimistic, Theo. I'm very optimistic. The goodwill of the big commercial farmer is underestimated at this stage.
Charl, your advice to either a young man in the Makatini Plains or in growing up in a town or that dream where you were dreaming about being a farmer without the means necessary at this point in time, but dreaming to one day be a successful farmer. What would your advice be to that young person?
I would say that he must seriously get involved in farming and improve his knowledge. There are certain courses in the sugar industry. We have got the best training facilities in South Africa. We made a mistake in the country, and I'm not criticizing government, by shutting down many agricultural colleges. That closed many, many doors for young black guys to go into big agricultural business. I would say this guy must have himself trained, do every possible course there is, be sharp, start working on a farm, but try to get into a country like Zambia, for instance, where you can, most farm managers that will work in Zambia will work on a contract fee. You'll be paid on performance. And when you're well equipped, nobody can stop you from making a success in farming.
And it's a career you would recommend?
It is the most important career that anyone can follow. Mining takes and destroys. Farming takes, take again, and put back into people and into resources. Protecting it, mining destroys it.
Thank you very much. That was Charl Senekal. You're watching Nation in Conversation. From me, Theo Foster. Good day.
Nation in Conversation, proudly brought to you by Afgri, Fort Knox, Hinterland, Monsanto, Nedbank, NWK, and Senekal.